Okay, so good day everyone. So for today, we're going to have a discussions about the human resource management policy and practices. No, actually in the Philippine setting, no, the style by which human resource practices are devised and implemented in the Philippines is easily identifiable as a distinctively Pinoy. No, within the bounds of the economic, political setting, Pinoy human resource management is based on intricate system of indigenous core values which emphasize and socially accepted. No, Pinoy style human resource management is in the Philippines are the style by which the human resource policies are devised and implemented, of course, no, as I mentioned earlier. And most commonly, no, the onslaught of globalization is less felt, no, since powerful local cultural imperatives have a strong impact on human resource practices of foreign firms, no, resulting in a considerable extent of localization. Implications of these findings are, of course, we'll be able to discuss by our presenter in the future for human resource management in the Philippine concept, no, because about 100 million people live in the Philippines archipelago, where more than 100 mutually unintelligible languages, no, and dialects are spoken. And the national language, no, is Tagalog, as I mentioned. Originally, the Luzon dialect, but the English language was introduced to the island by American occupiers in the early 90s. No? And again, the Philippines was also a Spanish colony, no, from 1521, no, and we need to understand all those things. And human resource management in the Philippines has gained a prominent position, no, in the corporate structure. So with the current focus on manpower development, the National Manpower and Youth Council was coordinating and evaluating human resource development programs, not only by the government, no, but by the private sector who have been encouraged to participate actively. So I don't know if you're familiar with the National Manpower and Youth Council. It was actually supplanted, no, that is way back 1994, no, and by the TESDA, no, yung Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. So a number of other government agencies are involved in non-formal human resource development efforts. So in the Philippines, no, by practice of human resource management is governed by a very elaborate legal, no, framework, no, a number of regulations, no, and laws were promulgated as early as 1950s, no, and minimum wage law 1951 po yan, in the Industrial Peace Act of 1953 and the Medical and Dental Treatment of Act of 1954. The 1973 Constitution of the Philippines stated, di ba sabi nga sa Constitution, the state shall afford protection to labor, promote full employment, ensure equal work opportunities regardless of sex, race, or creed, and regulate the relations between workers and employees. The state shall assure the rights of workers to self-organization, collective bargaining, security to tenure, and just and humane conditions to work. The state may provide for compulsory arbitration. Sabi yan sa Constitution, no, 1973. Currently, no, there are extensive laws on many issues. No? Rights with regards to rest, working hours and holidays, minimum wages, hours and conditions of work, meal and rest periods, no, hours of work of hospitals and clinical personnel, night differential pay, overtime, weekly rest period, benefits and services, termination of employees, no, labor relations, labor unions, collective bargaining, and industrial health and safety. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Dr. Abante. Good morning, classmates and Dr. Abante. Welcome to Human Resource Management, MBA 305. Um, my name is Ruth Peno Hermoso, and I will be your presenter for today. I'll be discussing the Part 10 of HRM entitled Policy and Practice. The HR department is in charge of overseeing procedures that guarantee a consistent, equitable, and thorough method is used to address HRM challenges. Systems for the effective administration of HR issues are in place. There is information available to support HRM decisions, and that both the text of employment and its spirit are binding legislation is implemented. As described in this section, the development accomplishes these obligations and the management of the following. First, we have the HR policies. HR policies approaches used by the organization to deal with the key aspect of HRM and provide guidelines to ensure the consistent application of these approaches. And then we have the HR procedures. HR procedures is a formalized way of dealing with the specific employment matters such as discipline, redundancy, and grievance handling. And then we have the HR information system. These are a formalized ways of, these are computer-based processes for managing the HRM and providing HR information, also known as EHRM. And then we have the employment law. HR practices that meets employment law requirements. Let's start with the chapter 4, the HR policies. On completing this chapter, On completing this chapter, we should be able to define the key concept, diversity, and equal opportunities. We should also able to understand the reason for having HR policies, overall HR policy, a specific HR policies, formulating HR policies, and implementing HR policy. HR policies set out the approaches that the organization adopts to dealing with key aspects of HRM and provide continuing guidelines on how these approaches should be applied. So first question, why have HR policies? They define the philosophies and values of the organization on how people should be treated, and from this are derived the principles upon which managers are expected to act when dealing with HR matters. HR policies should be distinguished from HR procedures. A policy provides generalized guidance on how HR issues should be dealt with. A procedure spells out precisely what steps should be taken to deal with major employment issues such as grievances, discipline, capability, and redundancy. HR policies defines how the organization wants to handle key aspects of people management. As guidelines, the aim is to ensure that any HR issues are dealt with consistently in accordance with the values of the organization and in line with certain defined principles. All organizations have HR policies. Some, however, exist implicitly as philosophy of management and an attitude to employees that is expressed in the way in HR issues are handled. For example, the introduction of new grade and pay structure. Although the benefits of consistency and clarity that come with clear regulations might seem evident, there are drawbacks as well. Written policies may be rigid, limiting, platitudinous, or any combination of three. The company can recover the policy easily. To a degree, policies have often to be expressed in abstract terms and managers do not generally care for abstraction, but they do want to know where they stand. People like structure and formalized HR policies can provide the guidelines they need. Formalized HR policies can be used in induction, team leader, and management training to help participants understand the philosophies and values of organization and how they are expected to behave within that context. They are a means for defining the employment relationship and the psychological contract. HR policies can be expressed formally as overall statements of the values of the organization or in relation to specific areas such as discussed in this chapter. To sum up, HR policies provide guidelines on how key aspects of people management should be handled. The aim is to ensure that any HR issues are dealt with consistently in accordance with the value of the organization and in line with certain defined principles. Now let's discuss the overall HR policies. The organization's general HR policy outline its attitude towards its employee as well as its fulfill its social obligation to them. It is an outward manifestation of its moral principles or views on how people ought to be treated. The value expressed in the overall statement of HR policies may be explicit or implicit. I refer to the following concept. Okay. Number one is the equity. Equity is the fair and just treatment of employee by taking an even-handed approach. This includes safeguarding people from any wrongdoings of their managers, giving everyone equal opportunities, operations, hiring, and promotion of fair payment structure. And then number two, we have the consideration. Considering each person's unique circumstances when making decisions under those impacts one's prospects, security, or esteem of employee. And then we have the organizational learning. A conviction that all organization members should be supported in their learning and development by providing the necessary procedure and resources. For this, company may include the training or seminars attended in their appraisal. And then we have the performance through people. The significance of performance management as a tool of defining and agreeing upon common expectation. The importance connected to developing a performance culture and the continual improvement, the provision of fair feedback to employees on how well they are performing. So for this po, for example, in yung appraisal natin, kung ito ay quarterly, semi-annual or annual, should be discussed to the employee. Para kung meron po tayong misunderstanding, pwedeng ma-arrest ni employee yung grades niya for the said period. And then we have the quality of working life. Continuously and continually aiming to improve the quality of working life. This entails boosting the sense of fulfillment that people feel from their job to the extent that is practical, decreasing boredom, increased variety and autonomy, and responsibility, avoiding excessive stress on people, and ensuring a reasonable balance between work and life outside of work. Some companies are doing a yearly company outing, and some meron pong sports fest wherein the employees are having a get-together every year or semi-annual. Meron pa ngang iba, meron ako nakita sa isang hotel, meron silang isang room where they can sleep during their lunch breaks. And meron din iba na sa mga malaking company, meron din silang mga gym and badminton and basketball areas. And we have the working condition, providing a safe, secure, and to the extent possible enjoyable environment working circumstances. These values are espoused by many organizations in one form or another. But how far do they can making business the judgment practice? Paano natin paano yung kumpanya na implement ang mga bagay na ito? One of the challenge of people who create HR policies is how can we pursue policies focusing on corporate success while also fulfilling our responsibilities to employee in terms of equity, consideration, workplace quality, security, and working circumstances. For some, to claim that HR implies that policies should be driven exclusively by business. Human concerns are irrelevant. However, businesses may responsibilities to all of its stakeholders, not only in their proprietors. It may be difficult to express these overall policies in anything but generalized terms, but employers more often must acknowledge that they are vulnerable to both internal and external influences. What needs to be done to avoid accusation that general HR policy statements are mere theoretic and to convert them into reality through specific HR policies and enforce them or enforce their application. Now let's move on to specific HR policies. What are the common areas in which specific HR policies exist? Number one, we have the age and employment. The following should take into consideration. Age is a poor prediction of job performance. It is misleading to equate physical and mental ability with age. Yung iba, senior citizen na, but their mind and physical are healthy and active. Pero merong iba, mga bata pa, but let's say, merong lousy or lalamya-lamya. More of the population are living actively nowadays. Healthy lifestyle are practiced as we get older. And then we have the AIDS policy. AIDS policy, mostly ito ay ina-apply sa hospitals, clinics, and diagnostic center. An AIDS policy should include the following points. No? The risk through infection in the workplace is negligible. Where the occupation does involve blood contacts, as in hospitals, doctors, surgeries, and laboratories, the special precautions advised by the Health and Safety Commission will be implemented. Kung tayo ay bumaba sa laboratory, magte-test tayo ng AIDS or any other na involving sa blood extraction, mostly yung mga nurses or yung mga medtech ay naka-surgical gloves and surgical mask. Employees who know that they are infected with AIDS will not be obliged to disclose the fact to the company. But if they do, it will be remain confidential. I believe sa Philippine setting or sa our company, any serious disease, hindi lang AIDS, kailangan ito ay dinidisclose sa company. Like yung COVID recently, kasi as people or as a person, obligasyon natin na protektahan din yung kapwa natin. Kung may, halimbawa, may COVID tayo, di ba, pag may symptoms tayo, hindi na tayo papasok para kahit hindi pa na at tayo confirm na positive from any illnesses, para maiwasan din natin yung makahawa tayo sa iba as a social responsibility na natin sa iba. Pero I believe ito ay talagang dapat i-disclose sa company. And then another is there will be no discrimination against anyone with the risk of acquiring AIDS. Employee infected by HIV or suffering from AIDS will be treated no differently from anyone else suffering a severe illness. Yes, hindi lang AIDS, no, like yung mga nakakahawang sakit, like TB, yung mga airborne na illnesses, some company are giving a the leaves, sick leave, kung hanggang kailan yung period na kailangan na sinasabi ng doktor para makapagpahinga din yung empleyado. Next is the bullying. Bullying will be prohibited by any anti-bullying policy. The organization won't tolerate, and those who continue to harass employee may face disciplinary action. The policy shall specify as follows. A bullied employee must receive the right to speak with someone else about the issue, a member or representative of the HR department, and to voice a grievances. If a complaint is received, the policy should underline that it should be properly investigated. And then we have the discipline. The disciplinary procedure should provide that employees have the right to understand what is required of them, as well as what can occur if they break the organization's regulations. Additionally, it should emphasize that as it relates to disciplinary matters, the company shall treat staff member in line with their guidelines of innate justice. It ought to be backed up by the disciplinary process. And then number 5, we have the diversity management. A policy on managing diversity acknowledges that various personnel have different personalities, and that managing these discrepancies will make it possible for more productive and efficient work to be done. Rather than concentrating solely on issues of discrimination, it emphasizes understanding the values among people. The idea of managing diversity acknowledges that advantage provided by differences. A management of diversity policy could be the following. Acknowledge cultural and individual differences in the workplace. State that organization value the different qualities that people bring their job. Emphasize the need to eliminate bias in such areas as selection, promotion, performance assessment, pay and learning opportunities. Focus attention on individual differences rather than group differences. For example, no, at Cisco, the Women's Network helped business development by hosting event for prospective and existing customers. So binibigyan po sila yung mga women's group ng project to conduct para sila-sila po ang magkakasama. And another example at PwC, there are forming networks, no, in their company for women, ethnic minorities, disabled people, and GLEE. GLEE is an exclusive business network for gays, lesbians, and everyone else. Nowadays, if I'm not mistaken, GLEE, meron na, siya, LBGTQ, sorry kung hindi ko masyadong kabisado. And another example at BT Company, Disability Network focuses on awareness, raising about different disabilities to help managers understand them and get well best from people living with a disability. Knowledge calls are provided, which consist of presentations done by conference calls and desktop technology with experts speaker on particular subjects such as Parkinson's disease and migraines. They typically include someone who has experience from the condition, a Q&A session, and inputs from HR relation to the condition of disability. There are online forums and subgroups offering support. And then we have number 6, no, we have the email and use of the internet. The email policy may specify that sending or downloading of offensive emails is prohibited and that the sender of downloaders of such messages are subject to formal or normal disciplinary procedures. The policy may also forbid accessing social networks or other websites on the internet, downloading content not linked to the business, yet enforcement of this can be challenging. Some businesses may long held the view that rootless telephone use is permissible and that this policy may also apply to the internet. Suppose it is determined that workers' email should be tracked to check for excessive or unacceptable usage. An email policy should be cover this. Dati kasi medyo parang telephone calls to pwede natin tawagan kung as long as hindi ito long distance or telephone, pwede tayong makipag-usap or chit-chat sa mga na hindi related masyado sa work. Pero nowadays, nag-evolve na po ang ating mga IT na tatrack na po nila kung ano yung mga websites na pinupuntahan natin na hindi related sa work. So, merong ibang mga company, merong inaano lang nila kung ano lang yung pwede nating puntahan na website at saka kung ano yung mga forbidden websites like yung mga porno na websites, naka-disable yon. And some company din, yung mga job hunting website like yung JobStreet, JobsDB, naka-restrict din yon sa kanilang website. If I'm not mistaken, in sure kung firewall yung tawag nila doon. Meron din mga instances na yung emails natin pwede nilang makita or pwedeng ma-divert sa kanila yung mga emails natin. So in our company po, ang practice namin, usually pag may magre-resign, after yung effective date ng resignation, dinidisable namin yung email sa kanila para hindi na nila ma-open. However, we're giving the 1 month para po totally ma-terminate yung email address and then yung email nun ay nada-divert sa amin, especially sa sales para kung may mga orders sa sales calls na kailangan, natatrack pa din namin. And then we have the employee development. Okay? The employee development policy could state the company's dedication to the ongoing improvement on employees' abilities and skills to optimize their impact and to contribute, giving them the chance to develop their abilities, reach their full potential, improve their careers, and raise their capacity to find employment both inside and outside the organization. The directive could also state the idea that learning should not be hindered by a person's age, opportunities that everyone can take advantage no matter how old they are. And then number 8, we have the employee relations. The company's policies on employee relation will outline the organization's attitude toward employees' right to have management represent their interests through employee or association, unions, or other alternative representative system. Accordingly, it describes the principles on which the organization operates. Example, highlighting the fact that something should be considered a partnership. And then we have the employee voice. The employee voice policy should specify the company's commitment to allowing workers a voice in decisions that affects them. It should specify that employees can voice their opinions, such as joint consultant and suggestion scheme. And then number 10, we have the employment relationship. Employment policy should be concerned with fundamental aspects of the employment relationship. And then we have the equal opportunity at number 11. The policy on equal opportunity should specify the organization's commitment to provide equal opportunities for everyone, regardless of age, sexual orientation, sex, marital status, disability, race, or religion. Policy could be set as follows. No? We are an equal opportunity employer. This means that we do not permit direct or indirect discrimination against any employee on the grounds of race, nationality, sex, sexual orientation, disability, religion, marital status, or age. Direct discrimination takes place when a person is treated less favorably than other or would be treated in similar circumstances. Indirect discrimination takes place when whether intentional or not, a condition is applied that adversely affect a considerable portion of people of one race, nationality, sex, sexual orientation, religion, or marital status, or those with disabilities or older employees. The firm will ensure that equal opportunities principles are applied in all HR policies, and in particular to the procedures relating to the recruitment, training, development, and promotion of its employees. Where appropriate and where permissible under the relevant legislation and codes of practice, employees of underrepresented group will be given positive training and encouragement to achieve equal opportunities. And then number 12, we have the grievances. The grievance policy may provide that employees have the option to communicate their complaints to their manager. You must have a representative with you if you want so, and to raise their appeal if they believe their complaints for not being addressed satisfactorily. The policy should be supported by a grievance procedure. And then number 13, we have the health and safety. Health and safety policy cover how the organization intends to provide health and safety practices and system of work. And then number 14, we have the new technology. A new technology policy statement can include the following. The introduction will be discussed in collaboration of emerging technologies and the action that would be done by the company to reduce the possibility of forced layoffs or negative consequences on other terms and conditions or working conditions. And then number 15, we have the promotion. A promotion policy might outline the company's desire to advance internally, whether this may be suited as a way to meet its needs to top-notch employees. However, the policy might acknowledge that there will be a situation when the needs of the company today is a future can only be satisfied by hiring outsiders. The purpose one could urge that the strong organization requires fresh blood's infusion on occasion if it is not to slack off. Additionally, the policy may specify that it will inspire staff to submit application for internal job posting and won't be held back regardless of how the reluctant the latter may be to lose them. It should also be emphasized that the only criterion for selection or promotion should be ability to do the job. And then number 16, we have the redundancy. The goal of redundancy policy should be stated. The organization's purpose is to create employment security. The company intends to utilize its greatest effort to prevent forced retirement, its the training and the development initiatives. If, however, redundancy is necessary, the affected shall receive the most warning possible, fair and equitable treatment, and every assistance available to find suitable alternative employment. The policy should be supported by redundancy procedure. And then number 17, we have the rewards. The rewards policy could cover such matters as providing an equitable pay system, equal pay for work of equal value, paying for performance, competence, skills, or contribution, sharing in the success of the organization. Some company or some organization are giving a profit sharing. The relationship between levels of pay in the organization and market rates. The provision of employee benefits, including flexible benefits if appropriate. And then the importance attached to the non-financial rewards resulting from recognition, accomplishments, autonomy, and the opportunity to develop. Sometimes hindi naman palaging monetary. Meron ding minsan certificate lang, masaya ka na, ma-recognize yung pagod mo for a certain project. Sometimes type lang sa balikat, no, ng iyong immediate superior, na knowing that she or he recognize your efforts, no? And sometimes ang mga rewards ay in the forms of training, seminars, ganyan. And then number 18, we have the sexual harassment. The sexual harassment policy should state that sexual harassment will not be tolerated. Employees subjected to sexual harassment will be given advice, support, and counseling as required. Every attempt
So a while ago, no, I've mentioned about some history, no, of the human resource management practice policy in our country, no. So the integration of Filipino core values into the human resource development program has led to, I think, being first ranked in terms of growth, in third terms of overall performance within the NISL Asia Pacific region, by changing focus from the technological and marketing progress of the boom years to an emphasis of the employees' core values and cultural background. So a disaster was averted and a foundation built for more fruitful human resource management advances in the future. So a first step was to incorporate Filipino core values as part of the major industrial relations strategy. So after all, the employees are Filipinos. In NISL is operating in Philippines cultural environment. No? The related experience of Japanese and Western multinational organization in the Philippines give evidence that the Filipino core value system is a strong influence which leads to the adoption of foreign human resource management practices. So the coherent and resilient Japanese work culture as well as the impersonal and technical Western managerial philosophy succumb to the cultural impact. So arriving in the Philippines, one may quickly conclude from the surface of the society that is thoroughly westernized in its manners and attitude. However, nothing could be further from the truth, and anyone who needs to deal with Filipino in business or otherwise would need to know something about the country's value system. Despite the westernized veneer, business as well as other social activities are performed the uniquely Filipino way. Another understanding of this Filipino characteristic will be necessary to appreciate how people are managed in the Philippines. And it can be, we can conclude in the Philippine setting that distinctly Pinoy style human resource management is identifiable through managerial practices, no, that are evident expression of the Filipino culture and especially its core value system. Despite the onslaught, sabi ko nga kanina, of globalization, a revealing example of the cultural impact is shown in the prevalence of recruiting activities of course, no, activities, no, like in Japanese companies, no, which rely on the kakilala system, no. So the Western multinational, no, like sabi nga natin kanina, Nisal Philippines adapted two Filipino core values, no, concern for people, yung malasakit sa kapwa, and family spirit as powerful cultural imperatives to ensure socially acceptable work behavior. Economic, political factors are also a determining factor of Filipino human resource management. Although the Philippines, no, the Philippines display many characteristics of an Asian developing country due to the extraordinary influence of American culture, there is a rich legislation of human resource management issues which is supported by government and private sector initiatives. Yet, the ambitious legal framework may not indicate how human resource management issues are prioritized in practice, because during a period of indicate how you are human resource, of course, during a period of extended economic and political problems, further deterioration can be expected in union strength, real wages, job security, and labor standards. Right now, especially during this time of pandemic, no, the government agency moved, no, to have a full online, full face-to-face classes, no, in considering with the Philippine economics, no, economy, because let's say for example, if the student go to school, no, first nandiyan na yung may income ang jeepney, kapag may income ang jeepney, gagalaw yung gas, na foods and everything, no. So actually this will be, I think no, based on my own perspective, this will be one of the idea behind why do CHED, DepEd looking forward, of course, to have a face-to-face classes. This will be one of the considerations. Just not only say that kasi nga naman walang masyado natutunan pag nasa bahay, but another thing that we need to consider, maybe, no, this will be my personal na totoo yun, no. So let's say kung papasok yung student sasakay ng jeep or kaya private car, gagalaw yung gas, na yung mga pagkain, and any other na pwede pang makaano sa ating economics, no? Makatulong sa ating economics, no. So one may wonder whether managing according to Filipino values and norms is likely to foster both efficiency and harmony, or more of the latter than the former. So as a Filipino place a high premium on maintaining harmonious relationship with everyone, avoiding conflicts is crucial. So managers are expected to create and maintain reciprocal relationship, to show compassion, to act humbly, and to preserve harmony. The widespread attitude of bahala na, no, come what may, no, originates with the dependence on the authority figure who in modern times often the boss. And they have a fatalistic belief that everyone is controlled by forces beyond their control. So which often result in a lack of foresight in planning or satisfaction with the status quo. Another observation is that Filipinos things can happen. Filipinos tend to do things on a personal basis. There must be personal contact before things can happen, no? Furthermore, no, actions are not separated from the persons who is performing them. Business decisions that are unfavorable to Filipinos will be regarded by them as personal attacks, no, rather than as impartial business choices. So yung dadamdami norm of hiya, no, a sense of shame, is a powerful rule of conduct ensuring that no one should be made to lose face, no. Most Filipinos tend to be extremely sensitive, or balat sibuyas, yun yung onion skin, no. Once a person has lost face in public, this individual will not easily agree to any arrangement that resolve the conflict. No? And this explains why litigation no, can last for years in the Philippines. No? The traditional society patterns of mutual trust and obligations where debts and gratitude must be repaid, no? In the trustful expectation that others would reciprocate may explain the omnipresence of corruptions in the community interest. No? That is omnipresence of corruption in the country. And the tendency to promote family interest over institutional or community interest is due to the high esteem for familial rights and obligation. Okay. So I think Madam Ruth.
Hello, sir. Okay, sir. Classmate, thank you for waiting. No? May mga bagay medyo nawala ako. Okay. Moving on, no? To continue the sexual harassment, no? Every attempt will be made to resolve the problem informally with the person complained against. And then, the assistance will be given to the employee to complain formally if informal discussion fails. A special process will be available for hearing complaints about sexual harassment. This will provide for employees to bring their complaint to someone of their own sex if they so wish. Complaints will be handled sensitively and with due respect for the rights of both the complainant and the accused. Sexual harassment is regarded as gross misconduct and it makes the individual liable for instant dismissal. Less severe penalties may be severe for minor cases, but there will always be a warning that repetition will result in dismissal. Ma-share ko lang sa company namin, there was a time na meron kaming employee na maganda talaga siya. And sometimes pag Friday, sexy siya manamit. So yung maintenance namin, sinipulan siya while working on the hallway. And then yung employee na yon, yung babae, nagreklamo siya sa HR ng acts of lasciviousness kasi sinipulan nga daw siya. So yung lalaki na empleyado, though wala tayong written policy na bawal sipulan yung ating mga co-workers na babae, nagkaroon siya ng verbal warning. So yung pagsimpleng sipol pala is part of sexual harassment na yun kung may magrereklamo. And then another HR policies at number 19 is the substance abuse. Okay. A substance abuse policy could include assurance that employees identified as having substance abuse problem will be offered advice and help. Any reasonable absence from work necessary to receive treatment will be granted under the organization's sickness scheme, provided there is a full cooperation from the employees. An opportunity will be given to discuss the matter once it has become evident or suspected that work performance is being affected by substance-related problem. The right to be accompanied by a friend or employee representative in any such discussion. Agencies will be recommended to which the employee can go for help if necessary. And then employment rights will be safeguarded during any reasonable period of treatment. In our company po, we have an annual drug testing. So meron po kaming pinipilapan na form na once nag-positive kami ay will be directly turned over to the NBI. So hindi ko lang po sure kung may nahuli na or wala kasi ano po yun surprise drug check. In number 20, we have the whistleblowing. Whistleblowing takes place when someone reports a suspected wrongdoing at work. Dismissal of an employee for whistleblowing is deemed in law as automatic unfair dismissal if protected disclosure. For example, referring to a criminal offense by the employer is made and the employee reasonably believes that the disclosure is in the public interest. Naturally, businesses want to prevent that scenario, and employees require direction on what they are permitted to do and what they ought to do. Therefore, the requirement for whistleblowing a plan that will explain that the organization believes that it is important to deal with any wrongdoings, especially those malpractices, especially specifically refers to the Public Interest Disclosure Act of 1998, including criminal offenses, risk to health and safety, failure to comply with a legal obligation, and miscarriage of justice and environmental damage. A specific example of unacceptable behavior could be given. And then we have indicate that if anyone becomes aware of an issue that needs to be dealt with, they should raise the matter inside the organization, either with their land manager, or if the allegation is about their land manager, the more senior manager. State that employee will not be penalized for informing management about the malpractice. For example, yung ating immediate superior, nagdidispalko ng funds. Ayun, pwede po tayong kahit na tayo ay mas mababang uri or under tayo ng ating uh, immediate superior, pwede tayong magreklamo or magsabi, mag-report dun sa ating team leader or executive director about the hinala natin or may evidence na yung immediate superior natin ay nagdidispalko ng fund. And then number 21, we have the work-life balance. Policies governing work-life balance outline how the company wants to give employees in order to achieve balance. What they accomplish at work is in relation to the duties and outside of job. The rules shall indicate the development and implementation of flexible work practices. The emphasis will be on the quantity of hours worked cannot be used as a standard for evaluating performance. It will begin rules for the possible arrangement in detail created, including reduced working hours and flexible hours work, term time employment agreement, and employment of residents. Ito yung nowadays na work from home, parental and caregiver special leave, and career breaks and range of child care option. A flexible policy must be taken into consideration according to the Work and Families Act of 2006. To recap, we have 21 HR policies exist. These are the age and employment, AIDS, bullying, discipline, diversity management, emails and the internet, employee development, employee relations, employee voice, the employment relationship, equal opportunity, grievances, health and safety, new technology, promotion, redundancy, rewards, sexual harassment, substance abuse, whistleblowing, and work-life balance. Now let's move on, formulating HR policy. The most important challenge in the organization need to be addressed through HR policy. External elements like regulations must also be considered. Managers, employees, and their representatives should be consulted as much as possible, and the policies and instruction for applying them should be widely disseminated. The following steps should be taken when formulating HR policies. Gain understanding of the corporate culture and its shared values. Analyze Analyze existing policies, written and unwritten. HR policies will exist in any organization, even if they are implicit rather than expressed formally. And then analyze external factors. HR policies are subject to the requirement of UK employment legislation, European Commission, employment regulation, and the official code of practice issued by bodies. The Commission for Equity and Human Rights, and the Health and Safety Executive. And then assess any areas where new policies are needed or existing policies are inadequate. Then number 5, check with managers, probably starting at the top, on their views about HR policies and where they think they could be improved. Or 6, seek the views of employees about the HR policies, especially the extent to which they are inherently fair and equitable and are implemented fairly and consistently. Consider doing this through an attitude survey. Number 7, seek the views of unions representatives. Number 8, analyze the information obtained in the first 7 steps and prepare draft policies. Number 9, consult, discuss, and agree policies with management and union representatives. And communicate the policies with the guidance notes on their implementation as required. Supplement this communication with training. Now, let's move on to implementing HR policies. Line manager plays a significant part in achieving this. They will be in charge. They will be in the large part in charge of carrying out the policy. Like judgment concerning individual on the spot, not HR function members who can just offer guidance. HR's job is to explain and communicate the policies, persuade line managers that they are important, and give managers the training and assistance they need to put the rules in practice. According to Parcel of sa book niya na 2003, line managers are responsible for making HR rules. Now let's move on chapter 41, the HR procedures. HR procedures outline the ways in which the management or particular management should go about carrying out various actions involving people. They essentially provide a defined method of handling particular policy and practices issues. They should be separate from HR policies and operate as standards for people. Management procedure may not always specify in details that action should be followed in certain circumstances. They outline both what has to be done and how to do it. To ensure that HR policies are implemented consistently and in compliance with both legal obligations and ethical considerations, it is desirable to have the essential HR procedures documented. Everyone will be aware of the exact action that must be done when dealing any serious and potentially recurring employment duties if they are written and widely published procedure in place. Employees, and if necessary, their representative should be consulted prior to the introduction of or development of HR procedures. Everyone must be briefed on the procedures, and they should be able to either in an employee handbook or in a separate document. Some organization or some companies meron tayong newsletter weekly or monthly. Line managers might require additional instruction on how to apply the procedures, and the HR management or the HR department should offer assistance as needed. Normally, HR is in charge of making sure that protocols are routinely followed. What are the HR procedures? First, we have a capability procedure. There are some organizations that deal with capabilities issues through a disciplinary process. but there are many benefits to handling issues as low performance separately and saving the disciplinary process for situation of misconduct. For example po ng capability procedure, no? Halimbawa, yung company natin, the policy, no? The company aims are to ensure that performance expectation and standards are defined. Performance is monitored and employees are given appropriate feedback, training and support to meet the standards. So sa policy na yun, ano po ba yung ating mga procedure? So number one, if a manager or the team leader believes that employee performance is not enough to the standard, an informal discussion will be held with the employee to try to establish the reason and to agree the action required to improve performance by the employee. Usually, pinag-uusapan po ito during appraisal period. It is agreed that established standards are not reasonable, attainable, they will be reviewed. It is established that the performance problems are related to the employee's personal life, the necessary counseling will be provided. For example, syempre hindi naman palagi na gloria ang buhay natin, especially sa mga buhay may asawa. Minsan, kahit hindi natin gusto or hindi maiwasan, nadadala natin yung problema sa trabaho. So sa mga ganitong pagkakataon, ang ating mga HR ay nagsisilbing guidance counselor. And if it is decided that the poor performance emanates from a change in organization standards, those standards will be explained to the employee and help them and offer the conformity with the standard. And apparently, no, kung poor performance pa rin yung empleyado na yon, disciplinary action is or will be provided. Okay, number two procedure, should the employee show or do not show improvement at all on a defined period, no, during the appraisal? Well, appraisal natin is every 6 months, nagpang-abot na. Hindi pa rin siya nag-improve, no? During the second na paghaharap or meeting, i-explain ni manager or the immediate superior the shortfall between the employee's performance and the required standards. Identify the cause of the unsatisfied result of the task, no? Remedial treatment. Kung kailangan siyang ipadala, baka naman willing naman siya, hindi lang niya masyado naiintindihan yung procedure. So, yung immediate superior must provide trainings and retraining. Obtain the employment's commitment to reach the standard. Set a reasonable period for the employee to reach the standard and agree on a monitoring system during the period. Tell the employee what will happen if the standard is not met. Okay. Importante pong malaman ng empleyado ang mga aligasyon laban sa kanya and kung ano po dapat ang improve niya para hindi siya blindfolded. At para alam niya kung saan siya areas of skills na mag-improve. The outcome of this interview will be recorded in writing and a copy will be given to the employee. At the end of the interview period, a further formal interview will be held at the time. In the event na yung required improvement has been made, the employee will be told to maintain the good work. Okay? Encourage more the employee to do good to achieve the effective and efficiency of the business. If some improvement has been made but not in the standard, the management or the immediate superior shall extend the provisionary period. Kung nag-i-improve naman kaya lang siguro hindi pa umabot sa takdang oras, bigyan pa natin ng time. Take your time. If there has been no improvement talaga, no? Talagang wala, ayaw niya mag-improve, magkakaroon na tayo ng, mapipilitan na tayo bigyan siya ng failed na grade. In our situation, no, in our organization, in appraisal po, kapag tayo or ang empleyado ay nakatatlo na consecutively na does not meet na grade or bagsak na grade, ang empleyado po na yon ay automatically terminated. And then, in that event, that employee has the right to appeal against their dismissal. And that employee must appeal and submit a written explanation within 3 working days. And then we have the disciplinary procedure. A disciplinary procedure outlines the steps that should be taken before taking any disciplinary action. Halimbawa, ang policy ng kumpanya natin ay the policy action has to be taken against employee, no? It should be undertaken only in cases where good reason and clear evidence exists. Hindi po tayo pwedeng gumawa ng disciplinary action kung tayo ay magbe-base sa mga hearsay or haka-haka. Be appropriate to the nature of the offense that has been committed. Be demonstrably fair and consistent with previous action in similar circumstances. Take place only when employees are aware of the standards that are expected them to rules with the requirement to conform. Allows employee the right to be represented by a representative or colleague during the formal proceedings. Allow employees the right to know exactly what charges are being made against them and to respond to those charges. And allow employees the right to appeal against any disciplinary action. So yung disciplinary rules, the company is responsible for ensuring that up-to-date disciplinary rules are published and available to all employees. This will be set out the circumstances in which an employee could be dismissed for gross misconduct. So ang procedure naman po dito, number 1, no, bibigyan muna natin ng informal warning or mas kilala sa pangalang verbal warning. Verbal warning is given to the employee's first instance or instances of minor offenses. The warning is administered by the employee's immediate manager or leader. So, in some organization like us, no, yung aming verbal warning naka-written din eh. Entitled lang na verbal warning. So, medyo nakakalito pero ganun siya. Number 2, kung hindi umubra ang ating informal warning, bigyan na natin ng formal warning. A written formal warning is given to the employee in the first instance or more serious offenses of after repeated instance. Madalas po ito na nire-release ng HR na mga warnings is yung habitual tardiness. No? In some company, meron tayong bawa sa isang period, meron tayong 10 maximum limit of lates. Pero I believe some companies, meron naman po tayong mga grace period, 10 to 15 minutes. No? So kung in 1 month, nagastos natin yung ating 10 na pagkakataon para malate, pag ika-5th, usually HR gives verbal warning na nakaka-5 ka na for this period. So, for the period, halimbawa naka-10 tayo, a formal warning or a written, ibibigay na ni HR ito sa atin. So, kung sa first period naka-10 ka na, naka-second, third, and fourth, hindi pa rin tayo pumasok ng maaga, lagi pa rin tayo late, dito na tayo papatak sa further disciplinary action. Despite of the previous warning, an employee still fails to reach the required standard in a reasonable period of time, it may become necessary to consider further disciplinary action. The action taken be up to 3-day suspension without pay or dismissal. Again, ito ay depend sa weight kung ano po ang nagawa ng isang empleyado. And then, yung grievance procedure. The policy for handling grievance and the method of handling them are laid forth in the grievance procedure. For example, ang policy natin, employee will be given a fair hearing by their immediate superior or manager concerning any grievances they wish to raise. Have the right to appeal to more senior management against a decision made by their immediate superior or manager. If na-feel natin na pinapersonal lang tayo ng ating immediate superior, wala namang basihan yung reklamo laban sa atin, pwede po tayo mag-appeal sa general manager or the next higher to the immediate superior. Have the right to be accompanied by a fellow employee or their own choice when raising a grievance or appealing against a decision. The aim of the procedure is to settle the grievance as nearly as possible to its point of origin. So, procedure po nito, number one, the employee states the matter with his or her immediate manager or team leader and may be accompanied by a fellow employee of his own choice. Kung meron siyang kaibigan, pwede po niya yung isama para cheering committee. Para pampalakas ng loob ba? If the employee is not satisfied with the decision, the employee requests a meeting with a member of management who is more senior than the manager or team leader who initially heard the grievances. This meeting takes place within 5 working days. No? Kung habang hindi ka satisfied, pwede kang umakyat ng level until you reach the director's level. After this level, yun na po ang end or depends sa organizational chart ng ating company. And then, we have the redundancy procedure. When dealing with this difficult process, a redundancy procedure seeks to satisfy statutory, ethical, and practical factors. Redundancy is defined as the situation in which management decides that an employee or employees are surplus to requirements in a particular occupation and cannot be offered suitable alternative work. Employees may be surplus to requirements because changes in the economic circumstances of the company mean that the fewer employees are required, or because changes in method of working mean the job are no longer exist in its previous form. An employee who is given notice because he or she is unsuitable or inefficient is not regarded of redundant and would be dealt with accordance with the usual disciplinary or capability procedure. Dito po sa redundancy, ang ating objectives ay employees who are affected by the redundancy or discontinuance of their works will be given fair and equitable treatment. The minimum disruption is caused to employee and the company. As far as possible, changes are affected with the understanding and agreement with the unions and employees' consideration. Meron din po tayo mga principles regarding this procedure. These are, the trade union concerned will be informed as soon as possible. Every attempt will be made to absorb redundancy by natural waste and wages and employees. Find suitable alternative employment when the company for employees who might be affected and provide training if this is necessary. Give individual reasonable warning of pending redundancy. If alternative employment in the company is not available and more than one individual is affected, the factors to be taken into consideration is deciding who should be made redundant will be. Sometimes, ito po yung mga nagiging basis natin or ng company para kung sino po ang mga magiging candidate for layoffs or a surplus employee. Length of service with the company, value to the company, other things being equal, length of service should be determining factor. Then the company will make every endeavor to help employees find alternative work if that is necessary. If may I share, no, dun sa aming company before, meron kami sister company na nagsara. So, ang ginawa, yung mga empleyado doon, pinapili kung merong mga mag-acquire nung early retirement. And then yung mga natira ay inabsorb po sa ibang sisters company. So yung mga willing and able to be absorbed by the other companies, napunta po sila sa mga kumpanya na yon. And then dahil because their previous job description is different from dun sa pupuntahan nilang bagong job description, the company provides training for them for the said new position. No? They were treated as new employees. Para meron din silang onboarding, orientation, and pagpapakilala for the whole company po. And then let's move on the HR information system. HR information system, a computerized-based information system for managing the administration of HR processes and procedure is known as the HR information system or HRIS. An alternate name for the use of computer technology in the HR function is EHRM. HRIS are way of executing HR strategies, policies, and practice in business through a purposeful and direct support. Meron po tayong web technology-based channels. No? Efficient service delivery, strategic orientation, managers empowerment, and standardization were the 5 objectives stated in the HRM. Reasons for introducing the HRIS. To improve quality of information available, to reduce administrative burden on the HR department, to improve speed at which information is available, to improve flexibility of the information to support business planning, to improve service to employees, to produce HR metrics, to aid human capital reporting, to improve productivity, to reduce operational costs, to manage people's working time for more effectively. No, isipin na lang po natin ba kung, for example, meron tayong 100 employees, semi-monthly tayong sumusweldo, eh, kawawa naman po yung ating HR kung manual na nagko-compute ng payroll natin and yung ating time in, time out. Now, the function of the HRIS. Absence, recording and management. Ito po, yung pupasok yung ating attendance, employee records, employee surveys, employee turnover analysis, e-learning, equal opportunity modeling, expenses, HR planning and forecasting, job evaluation, knowledge management, intranet, management diversity, manager and employee self-service, and metrics and human capital reporting, online recruitment, online performance management system, and the 360-degree feedback, payroll administration, pay reviews, pension and benefits, and administration. Meron po tayong 10 most popular uses of HRIS. Number 1 is the absent reporting and management, training and development, rewards, managing diversity, recruitment and selection. Others usually payroll, appraisal, HR planning, knowledge management, and expenses. So let's move on the HRIS picture. Uh, use of software. Software is typically purchased from outside vendor. Um, Meron po tayo iba, vanilla system, example. Available po ito na bilhin natin sa labas. No? It is crucial to keep customization to a minimum because excessive customization can make future updates difficult and costly. Research HR software market through trade exhibition and publications, HR process and exist system, procedure, produce a specification of system requirements, send an invitation to tender to several suppliers, invite suppliers to demonstrate their products, obtain references from existing customers, including site visits, analyze and score the product against the specification. Then we have the alternative approaches. Different than doing it yourself, there are other ways to provide IT services. The option of cloud computing. Cloud computing is the delivery of service over an external network or the internet. The on-demand software delivery strategy known as software as service or the SaaS involves charging customers for network-based access to and manage of HR IT services. And then we have the integration. ERP or the Enterprise Resource Planning solution combine all of the organization's information and the operation into a single database back system. Although they commonly connect payroll administration with other HR tasks, HR systems are not frequently connected to this extent. It will be possible to manage HR data more successfully if the HR system is integrated with the other IT system across the larger firm that they are specs to one another. However, many HR departments continue to employ standalone systems because they fear that integrating them will have harm in their own system, provide a danger of confidentiality, expensive, and carry additional hazard. And then the intranet. An intranet system is a network of connected computer terminals that allows employee of a company or a division of a company to share information. To maintain confidentiality, the amount of information that may be shared across terminals can be restricted, and the security can be involved by employing passwords, updates to personal information, online application for internal employment, requesting for training, access to e-learning, management of queries, and communication are just a few examples of HR internet system. And then we have the self-service. Managers and employees have access to information through a human resource self-service or the HRSS, and they have the option to interact with the system by entering data or making decisions on their own. This can be done through an HR portal, which is a website that serves as a point of access to internet information and may be specifically created to create a brand image for the HR department. A portal for business to employees is another name for this uh, portal or the B2E. Manager can instantly obtain information thanks to self-service. This could be HR metric, human capital reporting measure for absenteeism, personal information, performance management data, progress of learning and development. Now, the following points of consideration may be introduced on HRIS. No, ito po yung ating illustrated in the figure 42.1, the point to consider when introducing an HRIS. So number one, make sure you really know what you need now and what you are likely to need in the future to give a clearer guidelines to the software provider. Involve end user and other stakeholders in the decision-making process. It is useful to include a member of staff of IT expertise even in hindi po sila part ng HR department. Go for something clear and straightforward that adds value. Don't go for the bells and whistles na masyadong maganda, masyadong ano, pero yung kalaunan, hindi naman po natin magagamit yung mga functions ng software na yun. And then, evaluate the range of systems on offers in terms of how they report, how easy and quickly produce the type of report we need. For example, ito ba ay pwede nating i-export into Excel file para ma-manipulate natin yung mga data pag kailangan natin ng reports. And then, when buying an off-the-shelf system, don't customize it unless it's critical. Kasi po, kapag yung software na yon ay nag-update, tayo po ay magkaroon ng difficulties sa paggamit. Pwedeng yung mga in-update natin or in-upgrade ay hindi na po mag-function well. And then, let's move on the chapter 43, the employment law. The employment relationship is subject to a great deal of regulation in all industrialized countries and is increasing a picture of HR in practice and developing economies. The purpose of employment law, government have utilized employment law in the past to boost their popularity and seek the election. A good example is the coalition government intention to signify improved maternity and paternity rights. Ito po, no, recently, kung natatandaan natin, before, pag tayo po ay nanganak ng mga babae, kapag normal, meron tayong 1 month maternity leave. And then kapag tayo ay cesarean, meron tayong 3 months or 2 months maternity leave. Pero nowadays, ito po ay pinalawig, whether tayo po ay normal or cesarean, 105 days na po ang maternity leaves for all nanganganak. And then, following our minister stated that sought the create of labor market that was, number one is the flexible, encouraging job creation and making it easy for people to stay in work and find work. And then effective, enabling employers to manage staff productivity. And fair, employers competing on a level playing field and workers benefiting from sport. Okay, discrimination law. The guiding principles in this situation is that it is forbidden to harm a worker, a job candidate, or a previous employee of a company. The phrase detriment is frequently used to refer to monetary loss, opportunity loss, or any serious harm to someone's feeling or dignity. The Equality Act of 2010 has now consolidated and to some extent standardize most of the pertinent law, granting protection against discrimination to anyone possess certain protected characteristics. Sex, sexual orientation, race, a disability, religion or beliefs, pregnancy, marital status, and age are a few of them. The following four categories can be used to legal challenge an employer's action. Direct discrimination. Example of this is failing to promote a woman because she is a woman. Okay? Bawa, yung company, hindi masyadong malikit ang tingin sa mga kababaihan. Parang ang palagi ang tingin sa mga kababaihan, hindi kayang mamuno sa isang department. And then, indirect discrimination. Example of this is requiring a devout employee to work on a holiday. Diba? Holiday, pinagtatrabaho tayo, tapos hindi tayo babayaran. Hindi tayo 100% or 30% pay. Ito po ay pumapatak sa indirect discrimination. And then the victimization. Refusing to give a reference to a former employee who brought a race discrimination claim against the organization. And then the harassment. Teasing someone about their sexual orientation. Discrimination law, when they have been unfairly determined for employees who have served for more than 2 years, ay eligible to compensation or reinstatement po. For health and safety law naman po, health and safety inspector conduct routine inspections of employers' facility without prior notice. And as a result, they have the authority to issue prohibition notice or improvement notice, which forbid the employer from using a piece of equipment or operation of system. Ma-share ko lang po, no, recently, mayroong mga taga-labor na nagpunta sa company namin and namili sila per department randomly, no, hindi ito scripted, kumbaga, hindi si HR namin ang namili. Ginaid lang sila ni HR doon sa loob ng aming office. So, per department, may tinatawag. And then, namarites ko dun sa department namin na tinawag kung ano yung mga tinanong. So, one of the questions is, number one, sumusunod ba si company sa takdang oras ng isang empleyado? Number two, may pinagagawa ba na labag sa aming paniniwala or hindi na sakop or saklaw ng aming job description? And binabayaran ba kami ng overtime pay? Those are some of the questions raised or surveyed to the employees na random picked by the labor representative. And then hours and wages. Numerous rules control the length of work days and the wages that employees are entitled. So in the Philippines, no, yung current wage po natin sa NCR is 537 if I'm not mistaken. And then we have the family-friendly employment law. The most significant regulatory developments in recent years have been in the field for family-friendly employment rights. Since the middle of the 1990s, new rights have been added an average over 2 to 3 years, while already existing rights have been increased. This methodological process has masked the tremendous advancement in employment rights that has been take place over time. Additionally, significant rights extensions are anticipated for April 2014 and April 2015. The following were the main family-friendly privileges that were applicable in 2013 to the majority of the employees. Up to 1 year of maternity or adoptive leave. I believe sa atin po, 105 days lang po ang maternity leave. And then number 2, 9 months of maternity or adoptive pay. Number 3, the rights to paid time off to attend the antenatal appointments. Number 4, 2 weeks is statutory paternal leaves. Number 5, additional paternity leaves up to 32 weeks once a new mother has returned to work. The right to time off to deal with family emergencies. 18 weeks unpaid paternal leaves during the first 5 years of the child's life. And the right to request a change of contract in order to work more flexible. Against itong family-friendly employment po na ito, I think ito po ay depend po sa law ng ating kumpanya. And then the whistleblowing law. Employees who makes a protected disclosure are protected by the Public Interest Disclosure Act of 1998 from unfair treatment or disciplinary action. Criminal offenses, dangers to health and safety, non-compliance with legal obligations, a miscarriage of justice, and environmental damage are among the instances mentioned. Employees who can demonstrate that their actions were in the public interest and who are terminated for doing so are automatically considered to have been treated unfairly. No qualifying time or service is necessary if there is no salary ceiling. Now, how is employment law reinforced? By submitting claims to the employment tribunal, employees can primarily enforce their rights on their own behalf. However, the government uses inspectors to carry out the primary enforcement task in the area of health and safety. Employment law and HRM. According to the published data, employment legislation can significantly affect how firms conduct HRM operation. It takes up to a lot of time and is very important to HR workers. Managers can access a variety of reliable sources for free counseling on the requirements of employment law. Okay. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening and keep safe, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam. Again, as I mentioned earlier, no, in the Philippine setting, the seemingly unstoppable force of globalization continue to change the world of business at an ever accelerating pace. No? So the vigorously pursued policy of the regulations by President Ramos, if you still remember, has not been overturned or overturned by President Estrada and is likely to continue in the future, as it is the tune with the opening up of markets worldwide. So to survive in this new competitive environment, changes are required in the way of business is conducted in the Philippines. And we may increasingly see autonomous business entities following Western corporate structure and managed by professional managers instead of highly centralized family corporation where most key positions are reserved for the family members. No? However, the proven resilience of indigenous values and norms makes any quick and comprehensive change unlikely Pinoy-style human resource management will still be around in the Philippines for some time. One may also ask how the informal and unspoken culture codes of behavior are perceived by the world. Despite the highly westernized image of most managers in the Philippines, many cultural imperatives could be seen as prescribing negative or sometimes even illegal managerial practice if not properly understood. Upholding kinship, loyalties as in the kakilala system of recruitment might be perceived as nepotism, gift giving in return for favors received, or observing one's utang na loob could be considered bribery, and friends might be called croonis. During President Estrada, it has been quoted saying that if a crony delivers, then favoritism, if there had been any, may be justified. Demonstrating that Filipino core values are cherished at all levels of the Filipino society. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Thank you, Ms. Ruth.